All right, let me go ahead and check my sound here. Log into my page for a second. Yeah, I'm satisfied with that. So, all right, today's March 1st, 2026. It is 2:25 in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. It is balmy 36 degrees Fahrenheit here in Lafayette, Indiana. And I've decided to go ahead and look up which personality tests are considered to be the most accurate and do one here on live stream. If somebody decides that they want to join me, I can throw out a link as well. It's all right. So apparently, something called the Big Five personality test is the most accurate. However, there are various versions of this. According to Google's AI, they recommend one of these. The first one is called Truity, Big Five test, a popular user-friendly version that provides a detailed report on your scores. The next one is Open Psychometrics, an open source data-driven version, often used in academic research. The next one is big5test.com, a free open source 120 question test that breaks down each of the 5 traits into specific facets. And the final one that it recommends is Understanding Myself, a paid assessment co-created by Jordan Peterson that breaks into each trait into distinct aspects. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that that last one there is the least accurate, so I'm not going to touch it. Let's go ahead and go with the open source data-driven version, often used in academic research, since I want to at least approximate something reasonably accurate when I assess my personality. So, okay, there's a begin assessment. Let me go ahead and try it out. Hello, Objective Ethics. How are you today? It says, good morning, brother. Awesome. It's good to have family. All right, let me go ahead and it's Sunday. Yeah, there's probably not going to be a whole lot of people around, but I'm okay with that. Share screen. Big Five personality test. Begin assessment. Well, I don't think I need to read all of these paragraphs ahead. I know what this button means. Let's go ahead and press it. Oh, okay. Now let me make sure that you guys can see this properly. Yeah, I think that you can. All right. I am the life of the party. It just depends on the day. I'm gonna go with slightly agree. I definitely agree on a good day, right? I am an extrovert by nature. I'm not shy. But there are days where I do prefer to sit back and kind of observe from a distance, read the room as it were, pay more attention to what's going on with other people. Because quite often I'll notice somebody in a shared social space. Don't know why I had a hard time getting that word out. Shared, right? That where I read them and I can tell that they're having difficulties. They're uncomfortable. Somebody's intruding upon their personal space, or they want to connect and don't know how, right? And I have a skill set where I can facilitate um, the creation of a bridge between them and other people in that space. I've done it for many people before. It's the one thing that my ex Mindy was the most grateful for is that I could do that for her when with her son or with other people at the country diner we would go to often or the horse shows we would go to, etc. I created a social space that was um, like a safe place for her to connect. So I think I'm just going to go with slight, you know, no, I'm not going to sell myself short. Let's go with agree, having clarified that. I feel concern, or I feel little concern for others. Oh, I disagree. I feel way too much concern for others. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that my empathetic reflex is too strong. Lately, even when I'm watching absolute fiction in movies and TV, streamed, of course, I feel physical pain in locations in my body where other people sustain injuries, right? They get knocked to the ground and my legs hurt, right? They jolt with electricity and it's a very uncomfortable feeling. And so for that reason, like I just have to I'm increasingly more careful about what media I consume. This is not a moral trait. A degree of empathy is essential in moral character. However, um, it's too much, right? It's the reason so many years ago I had to quit being a counselor. I would bring my homework, uh, work home with me. I get stressed out easily. Yeah, it depends. There are some situations where I'm as cool as a cucumber. It couldn't stress me out. I could run a Fortune 500 company if I was apprised of all that I needed to know first and had an assistant helping me keep organized. There are some forms of stress I endure very well, but there are other forms of stress that I do not endure well because of my complex post traumatic stress. My central nervous system is not well regulated, although my emotions are well regulated. And so for this reason, it's hard to quantify where I am on that. Um, so I guess between the two, I'll split the difference and say neutral. I am always prepared. What does that even mean? Always prepared for what? Like, what? Come on. I can't be the only one that reads this and thinks, "That's half of a question, right? Come on. Finish the question you wanted to ask me. Come on, you can do it. Finish it, finish it." What am I supposed to do with that? I'm always prepared. Uh, I sure wasn't prepared for that question, so I'm gonna put slightly disagree. I have a rich vocabulary. Yeah, I got that. I don't talk a lot. I disagree on that one. I am interested in people. I agree on that one. I am relaxed most of the time. Uh, I mean, what do they mean by relaxed? Again, post traumatic stress disorder. Is my nervous system relaxed most of the time? Oh, hell no. But am I generally relaxed most of the time? Yeah, absolutely. Again, I don't really know what it's trying to ask me here. I'm relaxed most of the time. I'll just say slightly agree. It's, yeah, I'll go with it. I leave my belongings around. I mean, where else would I leave them? Come on. I leave my belongings around. I think it's asking me in a polite way, am I messy? Uh, yeah, I'm gonna agree with that one. I'm not well organized, which is, of course, a symptom of trauma. And the next question is, I have difficulty understanding abstract ideas. Disagree. I feel comfortable around people. It depends on the circumstance, right? But I'm going to say yes. I insult people. I mean, sometimes if they've got it coming, right? But I don't just like hurl explicatives. God damn it! There's that vocabulary I don't really have. Do I insult people? Yes, but I do it in a way where it's like part of a conversation. Right? It's not. I don't yell names at them. So is it really asking me that? I insult people. We'll go neutral on that one. I'll split the difference. I worry about things. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a thing I do. I pay attention to details. Yep, sure do. It's part of being hyper vigilant. I have a vivid imagination. Absolutely, I do. I keep in the background. Slightly, you know, I slightly disagree with them. I empathize with other feelings. Agree strongly. I seldom feel blue. I'm gonna go neutral. I'm gonna split the difference on this. I just don't know what to say about it. I mean, do I? Kind of. There are things that bother me throughout the course of each day. It's part of ruminating, part of, again, post traumatic stress disorder. But do I usually feel blue because of it? Man, I just don't know. I guess I'm not even sure if I'm self aware enough to know how often it is often and how often does it happen. I'm going to go neutral on this. I make a mess of things. I mean, does it mean in the kitchen? Does it mean in relationships? Does it mean that I'm not good at aiming, so I've got to sit down at the toilet? Like, what is it asking me here? I make a mess of things. I'm going to slightly disagree. I am not interested in abstract ideas. I disagree. I am definitely interested in abstract ideas. I start conversations. Oh, I certainly freaking do. Somebody's got to do it, and it's almost never anyone else. I am not interested in other people's problems. I disagree. I am. Weird that it's throwing those negatives at me and then asking me for a negative to confirm. I really wish it would word these differently. Like, why make me do that work? Fine. I am easily disturbed. Does it mean visual information? Does it mean that I cringe and can't watch horror movies? Or is it asking me something else? Does it mean that people can easily rip on my pond? Blah, come on. How is this scientifically reliable? I'm reasonably intelligent. I have no fucking idea what it's trying to ask me. English is my only language, and I still have absolutely no idea what they're trying to ask me. I am easily disturbed. Slightly disagree. I get chores done right away. Chores? What are those? I'm just kidding. Um, uh, disagree. I have excellent ideas. Well, I think everybody thinks so. Sure, I have some excellent ideas, like where they can shove this test. I have little to say. I disagree with that. And come back over here and see who else you've got with us. We got Cameron Bennett in here, and Sadiq Converted Man says, I failed it. Appreciate you and all 5 people that are present here today. All right. I have a soft heart. Well, yeah, it's way too soft. I get upset easily. Man, that just really depends, right? Because if I'm caught up in this, like these moments of complex post traumatic stress disorder, something that apparently is going to come up with every other question they ask me, then I am in an unpeaceful state when I'm caught up in what could have been and what should have been and what is and blah, right? But outside that context, no, I'm incredibly stoic in my moment to moment, just journeying through time and through space. My children are all grown, and they'll tell you um, that they've never known me to be abusive. They've never known me to just fly off the handle and have these like violent tantrums or outbursts or anything else. This is not part of me. So it just depends on what the hell the question means. Do I get upset easily? I'm going to slightly disagree. I often forget to put things back in their proper context or their proper place. Sorry. I don't forget. It just always seems like so much work to get back up and go all the way to the other side of the room to put something where it's supposed to go. So the idea is, you know what? Whenever I do get up, I'll do it. And 50% of the time I remember. So I often forget. I slightly agree. I can imagine if I was married, like my wife would be like, come on, just stop. I do not have a good imagination. Oh, I disagree. I have a great imagination. Pornhub should rent some space in my head, I'll tell you. I I have a good imagination. I talk to a lot of different people at parties. Oh, I definitely do. I'm not really interested in others. Disagree. I really am. I change my mood a lot. And what's a lot? It come on, guys. Like, work with me on these questions. And and to say that I change is a little bit different than asking someone, "Do you experience frequent mood changes, and how significant are they?" Right? To say that I change implies intentionality. At least, if I were to write this sentence, that's what I mean when I say I change or you change. Right? This deliberate decision making process. Do I change my mood a lot? No, I'm pretty stable from moment to moment. In fact, quite often when I want to be in a different mood and I can't seem to make it happen, right? I want to feel energized. I want to kick ass and take names. I want to dance. I want to clean the house, whatever. And I have to wait, and I got to manipulate myself. It takes hours to get myself into the right frame of mind. So I disagree. I do not change. Well, how about I slightly disagree? My mood does change, but it's not a quick process or a frequent or deep process. I'm pretty stable from moment to moment in my moods. I like order. Well, you wouldn't know it to look at my bedroom, but yep, I sure do like order. Let's go slightly agree. I am quick to understand things. I would have thought so before I took this test. Now I'm not so sure. Fuck me. Generally speaking, yes. I'm going to put slightly agree. I don't like to draw attention to myself. It depends, man. There are some circumstances. Like, I don't want everybody to notice me going down the grocery aisles at Walmart. You do you, I'll do me. But there are some settings where I'm like, "Ooh, notice me," right? So what do you do with that? I like to draw attention to myself. I'm gonna go neutral on it. Next question is I take time out for others. Well, certainly I do. I drop at a moment's notice anything for anyone that's part of my life. And if they're a perfect stranger in a relevant circumstance, sure, I'll do the same. So absolutely, I agree. I have frequent mood swings. Well, I would kind of similar to the question it already asked me. And the answer is no. I wouldn't call them mood swings. They're not extremes and they're not frequent, right? I have a pretty mellow range of moods and dispositions. It's not a big fluctuation. But I disagree on that one. I shirk my duties. Man, it depends what you mean by duties. But I'm gonna have to disagree with that one. I don't shirk them. No, come on. I use difficult words. Well, here I've tripped over some very. So I just did it again. Very doesn't start with a B, so I'm going to say, do I use difficult words? Yes. Are words difficult to use? Yes. I'm just gonna put it great. I don't mind being the center of attention. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm cool with it. I feel others' emotions. Absolutely, I do. I get irritated easily. Disagree. I do not. I follow a schedule. Slightly disagree on that one. Slightly disagree. I spend time reflecting on things. Way too much. I agree with that. I am quiet around strangers. I mean, I'm strategically quiet. I wait. I observe. I read the room. So I'm going to slightly disagree with this. I make people feel at ease. I do. I absolutely do. I often feel blue. Eh, I'm going to slightly disagree on this one. Again, I just, I don't know. If mood rings were reliable, and if I had one, and if they had like Bluetooth capabilities where it could feed accurate data at all times, 24/7, to a device that tracks it, then the answer might be different than I think that it is. But I'm going to have to slightly disagree with the I often feel blue. I am exacting in my work. Oh, I have to be. So absolutely, I am. I am full of ideas. Yeah, I'm full of it. Ask anybody. You've completed the personality test. Before you view your results, would you be willing to complete a short survey to help us with our research on personality? I kind of do want to. I'm just gonna leave this here for now. Come back over to the page. Who else we got in here with us? We've got Skyworks says, I understand the feeling. Deconverted man, perhaps it was a temporary glitch. I missed something. I couldn't support somebody. Okay, I'm scrolling back up. Scrolling back up. I missed too much. Skyworks says, good evening, James. Good to see you streaming again. You're taking a personality test? I'm assuming it's more for your viewers, rather than seeking some form of approval from it, but the outcome. Sure, I just thought it would be fun. It's important to stop along the way to share my thoughts about the questions themselves, because I do feel like this is way more informative than what button I'm going to click on. And it's also fun to take the test and share it with others. Sure, I don't think it's all that meaningful. Deconverted man says, maybe an idea, have your kids, if they are grown, on to talk about stuff. My kids would absolutely not be willing to do that. I love the idea, but I cannot get them interested in those kinds of conversations. And they're very shy besides. There's just no way I could get them to do that. Should be interesting, sure. What was that question about forgetting? I love and hate that mood question, says Deconverted Man. What website is this? Oh, so I Googled Big Five personality test. And this one is Open Psychometrics. IPIP BFFM, an open source data-driven version often used in academic research. And so it's, again, openpsychometrics.org, all one word. Well, .org is obviously a dot and then the word. So that's where we're at. Yeah, I think so too, Cameron. Thanks for saying that. Right? These are these little moments of validation. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that you appreciate this. It's a cool idea for a stream. Chaos, says Deconverted Man. Huh? What? I don't know what that question means. Yeah, you were with me all along. Dude, you're on YouTube, says Deconverted Man. Skyworks says, Hi, Deconverted Man. I popped through your live stream yesterday, where you unsubscribed from Arvin Ash. I'll admit that I too have been annoyed with Arvin Ash in the past. Did not mean to rhyme that. But I haven't really paid attention to him in a while. Thought it might have been a little rash, but you should go with your gut, says Skyworks. I don't know what it was about, so I don't have a comment particularly. I love that question. I hate the question. YouTube punk in the house, says James. Deconverted Man says, when an educated person presents nonsense, it hurts me deeply. Yeah, I feel that absolutely. I couldn't support him after that utter crap of a video, says Deconverted. I'm going to punish the video more later, but it's going to take research. Yeah, that's fair. Scrolling back down. Yeah, yep. Pay for the results. Knows better. Well, you think Deconverted Man, perhaps it's a blind spot. All right, so that's where I'm at about it. So in the meanwhile, I think it's a fair thing to say that when I engage with political issues, social issues, religious issues, these are forms of a comprehensive essay form personality test, right? Because when I respond, I'm expressing dimensions of my personality, my views and my values, but also the way that I express words. Like, how much thought do I put into an idea? How much thought do I put into the way that I'm going to express an idea? When I choose my words, do I choose them in such a way where they're meant to be hostile, neutral, academic, nerdy and brainy, thoughtful and compassionate, right? And are these consistencies or inconsistencies depending on the time of day or the topic at hand or who I'm talking with, right? There are many different things that if somebody were really clued in, really paying close attention, they could learn an awful lot about the way that I think, the way that I feel, the way that I process important social and emotional issues, the way that I regulate, how triggered I am by certain things, how much compassion I have for certain people and experiences. A lot can be learned about my responses to these issues. Now, earlier today, in a long-winded monologue, diatribe, whatever you want to call it, I kind of went off on Ryan Paul, and I posted it to my community tab. Hashtag no guilt. Right? I don't feel bad about it. I'm a little bit more than a little tired when bad faith actors posture themselves as good faith actors, right? And then they say this whole "prove me wrong, bro" kind of bullshit. If somebody's in a very superstitious sort of like magical thinking frame of mind, this is really deep. Let's say you've got a light switch on the wall, and there's an up and down switch, or a dimmer switch next to that, and another button next to that where you can set the colors, right? So you can dim it, you can change colors, and you can turn it on and off. The switches are clearly labeled, and every time you press the switch a certain way or do a certain thing, it results in a very consistent effect. A rational person is going to look at these light switches and how they respond to them and say, there's a definite causal correlation. It's not coincidental that when I do these things with these levers, knobs, dials, whatever, that they do this predictable thing. They're going to say, oh, well, they're going to look into it further, learn about conductive metals, they're going to learn about the flow of electrons, they're going to learn different things to understand something about how the science is done. They might not completely understand all the science behind it, but they're going to have some rudimentary idea about the cause and the effect behind the plates in the wall. But if somebody's really, really caught up in magical thinking, they could argue that, look, I understand that when I turn these switches this way and this way, it creates these effects. But the reason that that's happening is because there's this ethereal realm, this non-physical, magical realm where light exists. And when we hit this switch, we simply open up a conduit, a spiritual conduit, where the power of light, which is a divine energy, a divine presence, can flow across these pathways and make it through the light bulb. The light bulb's not lighting up. The divine energy from the ethereal realm is going through these channeled conduits, right? And flowing into the light bulb. We've created an opportunity for it to bleed into our physical universe, but it's not physical. They could say the same thing about color. They could say the same thing about dimness, right? They could have this magical, fanciful explanation of what's really happening. They can say, so sure, there's a causal correlation at the surface level, but there's not one behind it. They can just say, well, it's magic. Magic, you're just allowing magic to connect from one physical medium to another by creating a pathway, they could say. And this is how religious fundamentalists reason about consciousness, right? They say, well, you can say that that brain states, brain regions correlate to different facets of cognition. You can even say that we've tested this through science, where you can dim one part of the brain and create a certain effect. You can turn another part of the brain off, create a different effect. You can amp another part of the brain up and do a different effect. And so we see these causal relationships between brain states and mind states, between brain regions and specific facets of cognition. But then they can just say, that's not really all that meaningful, because all you're doing is like the light switches on the wall. You're creating a physical conduit through which magical powers from some phantom realm that consist of no energy at all, take up no space at all, are immune to time, and they're just flowing, bleeding in effect into our dimension. But these aren't physical things, right? It's the same reasoning. And when somebody reasons this way, it's important to recognize these are not falsifiable claims. They magic is never really falsifiable, right? And so when they say prove your position, what they mean is disprove theirs. But in order to disprove theirs, they have to be making a set of propositions that are falsifiable, and they're not. And it's a game that they play, and it's annoying when they do it. It is a form of gaslighting, no pun intended. But when I recognize this, it's not because I'm angry at them. It's not, I don't like being gaslit. It's a trigger for me in my complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't hate them. I'm not rebelling against spirituality. I'm not angry at a god, whatever the hell that is. It's none of that shit, right? And for them to even assume that it's anything like that means that they're making huge assumptions about my character and my intentionality. When the truth is that it's dishonest for them to pretend to be making a falsifiable set of propositions when they're not. It's dishonest to them to pretend like I'm not when I am. It's dishonest to them to use a word like supernatural when it doesn't mean anything. It's just a placeholder for a concept that the speaker does not possess. It is a negation of natural. It is to look and say, hey, you're talking about physical energies and physical regions of space that are doing things. And they're like, but you're just talking about surface layer bullshit. Like they can't understand how much they're gaslighting themselves and other people. And the reason I like talking about it for all these years is because there are people out there in the network that have friends and that have family members. And they too, some of you are being gaslit on occasion by your family members who pretend like you're not making a falsifiable claim when you are, who pretend like you don't have sufficiently supporting data for your positions when you do. They pretend like they're making meaningful statements when they're not. They pretend like they have a falsifiable belief system when they don't. They pretend like they've done their homework when they haven't. And it's frustrating for me. I just watched a random video that YouTube played for me, and I posted it to my YouTube community tab page. I think it's called something like "I Am Enough." And this is very much one of the most important issues that we ever talk about. I am enough, right? And I think the same thing about Hindus, Muslims, and Christians. They too are enough. No matter how much, no matter how big of a pile of bullshit I think they're sitting on, I do not think they deserve to be killed for it. I do not think they deserve to be tortured for it. I do not think that it nullifies the whole of who they are. I don't think any of this shit about them in their disagreement that they think about me, nor would I gaslight them about what I think and feel about these things. I am enough. My children are enough. Your children are enough. They deserve life. They deserve health, right? If there's such a thing as deserving life, then they do. I should put it that way. If there's such a thing as deserving health, then they do. If there's no such thing as deserving or not deserving, then it's irrelevant. We can simply dignify and value the person, the people that we care about, the people that we have to share this world with, to say, look, as long as you're not harming anybody, and yes, I understand religious fundamentalists are harming people when they put their Jesus hat on, but the rest of the day, they're probably not, right? Most of them, salt of the earth people, they would give you the shirt off their back as long as there were no nudity laws preventing it, right? It's not that they're bad people, it's just that they have a lack of respect for their own self, a lack of a sense of value, right? They feel like they've got to get their value from someone external to themselves. And they're insisting that you need your value from someone external to you, too, and you don't. There's nothing that any of you need to do to qualify for good health as long as you're not stealing the health of others. There's nothing any of you need to do to qualify or that you need to justify the fact that you even exist as long as you're not unexisting others. That's it. That's the standard. As long as you're not fucking with people, you don't deserve to be fucked with. As long as you're not harming people, you don't deserve to be harmed. And even to the extent that you do deserve to be harmed, what you would then need is a reckoning. What you would then need is to become mindfully aware of the ways that you're harming people and to be held accountable for that harm. And then to where the form of accountability that it takes is restorative to bring you into your potential, to be healed, to be made whole, to be made clarified, to rightly appreciate the value of other people's existence, even as it relates to your own, but also independently of your own. Right? This is what I want for everybody. When I rail against somebody that's like a religious fundamentalist or MAGA or whoever else, it's not because I want them dead. I just want them to stop harming other people. That's all. Right? And it shouldn't be that big of a thing to ask for. Beyond that, I don't care about how magical their thinking is. I really don't. I don't care if they believe in pixies or fairies or whatever else. But it's important to recognize that superstition is an unhealthy frame to live our lives within, right? If you're going to go through life thinking that if you break a mirror, you have to worry about 7 years of bad luck, you're going to end up creating this self-fulfilling prophecy where you bring bad luck. Because if you're constantly questioning yourself, you can sabotage yourself in the belief that now you're owed unluck, you're owed misfortune, right? When we go through life imagining or supposing or intuiting to the idea, surrendering to the idea that we've heard from others, that there's this mysterious force that will hurt you if it catches you guilty of not thinking the way you're supposed to think, feeling the way you're supposed to feel, behaving in accordance with the will of the mysterious force, no matter if it's about crossing a black cat's path or not offending a magical sky parent in some phantom realm somewhere. It's the same thing. It is this sense of dread under the shadow of a what if, a huge what if, a towering, scary what if. I heard about this concept that there's this shadowy presence, this mysterious force, this willful and intelligent force, and if I offend it sufficiently, and even potentially with trivial things, it might hurt me, and so I need to surrender to the will of the mysterious force. Well, when you hear about this kind of thing, when people tell you about breaking mirrors and getting 7 years bad luck, they are providing the narrative of the mechanism that brings the consequence, and loosely speaking, the form of consequence you're going to take. They're providing the narrative. Same thing with religions, they're providing the narrative. And in doing so, when you surrender to the fear of the what if, the superstition, you're also surrendering to the people that provided the superstition to you. This collective consciousness sort of thing, right? And that's not fair. It's not a healthy way to live our lives. And so for me, it's never been about trying to say, oh, religions are bad, let's destroy them or ban them or anything. It's about, hey, we all have to share this world together, right? And I care about good function and good health of people in these systems. That's it. It's not tricky. It's not rocket science. And for this reason, I'm still on topic. These are my personality tests. And these are way more comprehensive and meaningful and telling about my personality than any multiple choice quest on some internet forum somewhere where half of the questions are so weirdly worded, I don't even know what they're asking me. And when there's definitely no room for proper nuance in my response to the questions. And so that's why I left that page up where I can say, okay, yeah, I want to take the survey, let you know how you can improve your form. Because come on, guys, what a meaningless set of questions to ask me where for half the time I don't even know what the word means that you're using because it can have different meanings. And also, there's no room for nuance. There's no room for clarification at all. But when we have these discussions about shit that really matters in the real world, then we don't need multiple choice, do we? We don't need to haggle over the meanings of words, do we? We either give a shit and hold ourselves accountable, responsible to others and to self, or we don't. Skywork says we're all just organisms accumulating data and coming to conclusions relative to the information acquired and our individual ability to process it or lack thereof, right? And this is the important thing. I recognize that I could be wrong about anything that I ever talk about. Anything that's relevant to data, that's dependent on data, um, sorting out good data from bad data, collecting enough data, um, processing it logically, processing it ethically. My strongest suit is ethics because they're not that tricky. It's got to give a shit about other people and hold yourself responsible to self and to others in that context. That's it. There's ethics, right? But when it comes to data, it can be tricky. Logic is a bit more formulaic, but it depends that you've got accurate data to work with and then logical processes to use for processing. I recognize at any given time I could be wrong about any given issue of importance about what's really happening physically in our world, right? Are we really being tested by a hidden magical sky parent? It seems unlikely to me, but even if we are, right, my inability to recognize that we are is not at all a moral failing, right? It just means that I have a neurological network and blood chemistry and brain morphology and personal experiences and a language map, all these things, it got microbiome, how much sleep I get that affect my cognitive faculties, that affect my emotions and that affect my cognitive filtering and skewing, right? And so if I'm too skewed to be even in the ballpark of correct on an issue, it's not because I didn't care. It's not because I didn't hold myself accountable to the data. I accumulated as much data as I could relevant to the topic. I sorted it out to the best of my abilities for logical reasoning. I applied as much ethics as I could to the equation because I care about how my bullshit affects other people. And if I fail at the end of that process, it's either because evolution is messy, it's unguided, and we only have the structure of neural networking that we have, blood chemistry and all. We do the best we can, and if we fail, oh well, what the fuck are you gonna do? But try to do better tomorrow. Try to discover it tomorrow. That's it, and it's a reasonable standard for anybody to hold themselves to. But it's a completely different set of ideas when the religious person says that we might be wrong, because we say they might be wrong, or they definitely seem to be wrong based on available evidence, logical reasoning, and ethics. They're like, well, we don't have to care about your data. We don't have to care about your logic. We don't have to care about your ethics because our book trumps all of it. Fine, you can say that. But when I say that they fail, I'm just like, say, "Hey, let's try to do better, guys. Let's do better. We have to share this world together. Let's do better. Let's try." But when they say that we're failing, they include these terms and conditions, right? They say the implication there is that we're failing in some kind of way. Well, we deserve to be thrown away like trash forever, or subject to horrific and inescapable suffering forever for failing to get some weird questions right. If we're failing to get any question relevant to God correct, any question relevant to any of their religiosity correct, it's not because of a failing of moral character. It's not. Maybe we were missing a piece of data. Maybe our reasoning isn't as good as we thought. Maybe our ethics still needs some maturation. Maybe. But if their God designed the systems that we're captive to, if their God designed the systems that determine the shape that our brains take and the mechanisms of their operation, then their God is the reason for our dysfunction. And our dysfunction is the reason for our failure, right? It's the same thing. We err because we err. That's it. We don't choose to error, right? And so we look at them and say, "We think you're in error, and you could do better." They look at us and say, "We think you're in error, and we can't wait for our God to torture you to death unless you join our one true religion." And we don't know what to do with that, right? We don't know. Like, what do you do with that? Because they get all these different religions saying, "Join our religion, and our God might not hurt you." Like, come on, that's superstition by definition, and they can't make their case. If I'm wrong, let's say that I'm wrong about the way the mind works, and that science is wrong about the causal correlation between brain states and brain regions and cognitive faculty. Let's say the scientists have misunderstood, and there really is magic in some ethereal realm bleeding through these mechanisms that are causing the effect. And we think the mechanisms themselves are causing the effect, and really it's magic. Well, we've got no way to know that, do we? Magic can't be tested, it cannot be falsified. And so it's important to recognize they're giving us something unfalsifiable to work with, and then saying, "Falsify it, bro." And I'm like, how am I supposed to falsify something that's not falsifiable? How? Right? We only know about the physical mechanisms. We can only make sense of the physical mechanisms. That's where we're at, right? Period. That we know what we know. We don't know whatever it is that we don't know. We move on. These are the things that I think are the more telling things about someone's personality as a test of how we engage with issues and how we engage with people, right? Way more meaningful, way more telling than anything that these or these personality tests are going to give us. So, Zero Voke in the house says, "Christians, you're enough, and I've had enough." I've had enough. Absolutely. You two punks says, "Damn, I just cleared 7 years of bad luck last week." Yeah, that's fair. Appreciate you, deconverted man. Skyworks says the battery drained on my phone, and I have to grab power cable and wait for it to reboot. Appreciate you. Hey, Leo Rabbit, how are you? Good to see you. Is it today? You've got or is it tomorrow? I can't remember. You've got a thing coming up about my favorite topic, identity, right? What is the self? What is the I? What is this thing? And you use the transporter example for that, which I brought up the other day with you last week, whenever that was. So I do hope that I have a chance to jump into that discussion. It's the only thing in philosophy I've ever cared about. It is the only reason I ever got involved in philosophy. And I feel like I've exhausted the topic. I've exhausted the research. I've finished it. I know that's a bold claim. It's like saying I finished the internet. But for the purposes that I have to understand the I and the you, right? I've finished the project. And this is one of the many things that have made me incompatible with Christianity, Islam, etc., is that I understand that the I and the you is a story, and I understand what the story is based on, and that it's not a literal truth. So, Chris Morris says, "Hello." Skyworks says, "No, hellos all around." "I have a strange and little known quote I love about sense data," says Robert. "I brought my table from the former occupant of my room. I could not buy his sense data which died when he went away, but I could and did by the confident expectation of more or less similar. It's today. Very bold claim indeed, right? It's a bold claim. We will never have all the answers for identity and for the I about every single thing at the scientific level, the quantum level, right? The metaphysical level. We will never have all the answers, but I exhausted it for the purpose that I had, right? I needed a certain amount of content to pull from that mountain, that big mountain of mystery. And I pulled enough content from there that I'm completely equipped within the context of the project that I cared about, right? If there's anything left to be discovered in a scientific or philosophical level for the I, the you, I'm open to it. I'm ready to receive it as chance may impart to me, but I won't need it in order to settle the issues I was wrestling with, right? I know enough. I understand enough. I've sorted it out for myself. I've decided for myself what the framing of my identity would be. Or hold on one second. All right, sorry. We had a substitution on our Walmart order, so my son needed to confirm for me the substitution. Shoo, anyhow, that's where I'm at about it today. We've got 8 people here listening. Today's March 1st, 2026 at 3:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, how many minutes before your thing starts here, Robert? I guess I can go look real quick. Hold on one second. Skeptic philosophy. Come on now. Go to channel. One second. Let me pull this up real quick. 104 subscribers. If anybody's here that isn't already subscribed, please do so. Live panel. 5 p.m. So less than 2 hours from now, like 1 hour and 40 some odd minutes to be over there. Awesome. So do you have a guest picked out for that today, Robert, or is it in 2 hours? Yeah. Who gets to be the lucky person to share that space with you today before it gets opened up to panel? Um, Whoever they are, I'm already jealous of them. I love that topic so very, very much. Oh, only open chat. Oh, awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it even more now. And I understand that once we get 4 or 5 people in there or more, too many chefs in the kitchen, right? Being the polite person that I am, I tend to like sit back and let other people fill that space. So I hope I can get in there early enough to get a few thoughts out there before there's too many chefs in the kitchen. But I do love the topic. I absolutely do. Um, Want to talk about it for sure. Oh, awesome. So one of the things, I suppose I'll share it. I don't want to share more thoughts about it here if I can share it there. So I'll just save it for that. Thank you for everybody that was here with me today. And if there's any Christians, Muslims, or other religious persons of faith that may be offended by some of the things I've said, whether it be today or whenever, yeah, let me know about it. Comment in the comment section. The purpose of this channel is not supposed to be talking about counter apologetics anymore. I only brought that up today because it's relevant to the topic of personality. And the way that we engage with the issues matters. The reason that we engage with the issues matters, right? The energy that we bring to it, the disposition, the attitude that we bring to it matters. These are all forms of expression of a personality. And so, that being the case, if somebody wants to really learn about my personality, they can go through all the things I've ever said in any conversation or any monologue, and they can learn about me. They can piece together ideas about who I am in the world, how I manifest in the world in any number of circumstances relevant to any number of issues. And hopefully, they can hear the compassion and the thoughtfulness in the way that I engage, not just with the ideas, but with the people that are bringing these ideas to me. And if they feel like what they're hearing is hate or what they're hearing is division, then I would ask them to call me out. Say, hey, in this particular moment, it sounded like you were being a hateful person in your personality, or divisive, or unfair, or whatever, unthoughtful. Let me know. Give me a timestamp. Get me a date. I'll go through it and we can talk about it and I can see it. Yeah, maybe that's the space where I could learn and where I can grow, become more self-aware, more responsible, more accountable. I welcome the opportunity always. So Uh, I appreciate you, Skyworks. I do. All right, guys, we'll close it out of here. I'm gonna do necessary chores, which I wasn't gonna do, but the questionnaire today, the personality test, made me think, yeah, I could get better at the whole chores thing, couldn't I? So I'm gonna like clean my room, like, which is not at all a nod to Jordan Peterson at all. And then I'm gonna get ready to go get my Walmart order, and then I'll be back. Put stuff away, get organized, get ready for Robert's stream this evening. So, Geo Sam, hey there. I don't see you very often these days. Good to see you. Personality tests are just ways to tell yourself, yes, I'm quirky, but in a scientific way. Yeah, I don't think the personality test is all that meaningful. And according to Google AI, the test that I took today is used in academic research. And I'm like, it shouldn't be. It just really, really shouldn't be. So I don't even know what to say about it. Like, I feel like I could write a way better test. And I still don't think you can write a test that really captures somebody's personality. I don't think you can do it. One, because people are not going to report accurately. Two, because there's lots of room for misunderstanding and what the questions even mean. And also because they don't allow for the necessary amount of nuance and caveat. They just don't. And they're not enough specific, right? So you might find that in a particular kind of circumstance, this is the answer you would give, but in some other circumstance, this is the answer. And it might be that most of your days you spend in one circumstance and not the other. And so it creates a false statistical average about the larger spectrum of your personality. Again, these tests are not accurate. They can't be. I agree with you, Sam, 100%. Um, yeah, Skyworks wants to know how you've been, Geo Sam. Yeah, it has been a while. So that's going on today. I ordered several new things over at Walmart that I've never tried before that are supposed to be good for mitochondria and for a gut microbiome and um, just all kinds of things like that. I'm attempting to stock my gut full of healthy bacteria and to stay true to a diet that only feeds the healthy one while starving the unhealthy gut microbiome. And this is part of how I'm going to try to heal my nervous system um, to be able to attain greater levels of function in my life, having been inhibited by my post-traumatic stress disorder, complex PTSD. Right, so I got to heal the gut microbiome and my sleep, and exercise more. I can do all these things to heal my nervous system, so that I can and heal my brain, so that I can attain greater levels of function. So that's the project that's going on right now in my life. Zero Folk says, yes, I cannot stand multiple choice. I always have questions about the questions and I'm confused. Yeah, so I don't know how much you caught today, Zero Folk, but that was the problem throughout the test. Geo Sam says, hi, been mostly okay. Thanks for asking. Awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to close it out here. Usually, when I mention I'm going to close out soon, 5 people drop out immediately. They're like, oh, I can leave now? Whew, thanks. it's like it's like the teacher in high school saying, "We're done with the class today, but first I want to let you know." And then half the students get up and go, "Oh, see you next summer, see you next fall." God, why? It's fine, but all 8 people stayed here even after I said that. So hey, that's awesome. All right, thanks. I'll talk to you here in a couple hours, Robert. Thanks. All right, guys, get out of here, James. Peace.